Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. We're going to continue on our Jagan's picks, top 5 fire heroes this time. Now I'm going to go off and say that on the fire hero side, I think that a lot of 5 stars are like extremely good. When it comes to like 4-star and 3 stars, there are a couple that are maybe mentionable. I would say like maybe right now, currently how Smilegate has like balanced, the 4 stars may have better say, but my top 5 actually all consist of 5-star heroes for this one. So not like the ice and the earth heroes where I had a mix of like 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star heroes. I think the fire ones, I'm gonna stick to the 5 stars just for now. And then just looking at the list of the 5-star heroes in the fire section, I think that, I wish I could expand this list to beyond 5, but for the sake of consistency, we're gonna stick to 5. Now again, the one comment I got during my ice hero one, and clearly that person didn't even watch the video, but throwing some shade, he commented because basically I had I replaced Kisei with specially changed Montmorency, Angelic Montmorency. And I said from the Earth video and the Ice one reminded that there's no limited heroes in my list. And so that person commented is like, oh yeah, you're like, I forgot what he said, paraphrasing. Basically, he's calling me a noob, but he said like I missed out Kisei and Dizzy. Those two are like the biggest ones. I'm like, okay. I explained why I didn't include Kisei, even though I wanted to put her in. And I explained why Dizzy wasn't in it. So clearly, bad. Hey, Magama, welcome to stream. Hey, Alan. Alan says, so we roast a viewer at the beginning of the video. Yeah, man. They need to be memorialized, because the comments, I'm not removing the comments. I'm leaving it there, so they get a shout out. Anyways, we're going to start, again, like the ice and the earth ones. We're going to start from top 5 going to top 1. And this is, again, like I said in the previous videos in the series, that my ranking doesn't mean that a hero is like, bad if they're rank 5, for example, right? If they're rank 5, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that in the placement of the ranking, I feel that that's where they are. Now, during the making of this video right now, though, Smilegate has released a teaser of like, let's say Robbie, that she might get another buff. And this is obviously recorded pre-buff, so keep that in mind, pre-buff. Just don't want to comment like, why Robbie's so broken, man? You didn't include Robbie? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna say that right now, pre-buff video, right? Where they are currently. So we're gonna start off with Tamra. So for me, she places at 5. Again, not because she's bad, and she has a really good stats. Now, in a recent GVG video, I got like clapped by Tamra. Like Tamra was built like full on cleaver, wasn't even that fast, but still pretty decent speed, and it like destroyed my Luna. Obviously I got like, unlucky, didn't miss, got a crit, but it destroyed her completely. And Tamra is one of the strongest cleavers in game. If you don't use her as like a full on just a support unit, you can build her as a straight cleaver, and she does a lot of damage. You can tell right there, she has an attack of 1359, a cancer mage, and she does, I think she has like one of the highest base attacks in the game. Health is not like super low for a mage. 4,800 is not terrible. I easily seen 10k Tenebrias during my during her meta in arena. She's not as used anymore just because of the ice meta, but originally she was used really heavily in cleave comps, speed comps, anything like that. She was used pretty heavily. 104 speed is not terrible either, but of course not the fastest. You can easily make her 180 speed if you got a couple substats with a speed set with a speed boot. But it depends on what kind of role you want her. If you have CR boosters and you're building for a full cleave, she's super dangerous. 23% crit chance there innately in one of her awakenings, and then 0% effectiveness. Now she does need quite a bit of effectiveness, I think, to really make her shine. because she has a CR increase for herself, CR boost, and CR pushback in her own kit, it really makes her a very, very dangerous cleaver to set up for the full team and for her, even for herself. For her S3, this is really where you want like all your power. I think it has like a 1 times AoE mod or 0.9, something like that. But because of her high scaling attack, this does quite a bit of damage. Like I said, I got my Luna got owned by that. Really crazy. Stray Dog says I got her yesterday on EU account. Nice, good job. Is it 1.1? Okay, it's 1.1. And a 1.35 if Soul Burn, says online. Actually, I'm gonna do I do one better here. I'm going to keep up the data mine stats there, so we can refer to it at any time. But data mine here. Oh jeez, wait, no. Oh man, I almost played a YouTube video, and I don't want to get flagged. There you go. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so it S3 does an up to 75% defense break, which it's just nice to have. Honestly, if a 75, if you, let's say you go for a cleave, 75%, you're gonna maybe knock 1 or 2 defense breaks down if you get lucky, I suppose. But again, like I said, for the ice meta, it's pretty difficult. Now, why does she even make my top 5 list? I really do think that not only for PvP scenarios, so GVG, arena, and even PvE scenarios, I think she can actually become, like, she could be really good. She works for Golem hunts easily. She can work for Azimanic 11 as well. So Azimanic, Golem, all work with Tenebria, just because she has AoE and she can do quite a bit of damage. Like I said, you would build her for pretty high damage plus some speed, so you would get turns quite easily. The S2 does an up to 30% CR pushback, and it's AoE as well. So again, like I said, if you have high effectiveness on her, let's say like 50 to start for PvE, 55 for PvE is pretty solid. That's pretty good. Obviously, if you're gonna build her as just a debuffer in PvP scenarios, I think that having more effectiveness would be beneficial. Maybe about 70 or 80%. That's kind of like where I run my Bologna, and I pretty much use Bologna as a debuffer. But I think for Tenebria that would work as well. 30% CR pushback is an incredible thing to have, and if you can knock back a couple enemies, that'd be great. Like I said, in PvP right now, immunity, like people run C Armin, Angelica, even Montmorency now in the mix, especially changed Montmorency in the mix. Immunity buffs can be up pretty much like 80% of the time. Unless you run a stripper before that, you're not going to really see uses of the CR pushback or even the defense break. And then keep in mind that all the heroes I just noted there, pretty much, I mean, 2 out of 3 of them are ice heroes. So again, a possible chance of missing. If you miss, you don't land the debuff whatsoever. So this is the reason why we're kind of seeing a shift where a lot of the fire heroes, even though they're so good, are not useful in especially in PvP scenarios. People running Dizzy all the time. Oh man, it's getting so tired of doing that in the arena. It's pretty annoying. The S1 is kind of nice to have. A 35% chance if you max get it to +4 skill enhance. If you put the enemy to sleep, the caster's combat readiness is increased by 50%. But this skill does not trigger a dual attack. This is an incredibly good skill, incredibly good passive to be on an active skill. So yeah, 50% CR boost. That's Aramintha, ML Aramintha level CR boost for mage. But again, the condition is if they sleep. So kind of like ML Aramintha's, if they burn, she gets a 50% CR boost on her S2. Hers is if you put to sleep, but of course the effectiveness chance is much lower than ML or Mintha, but 35% right there. It's pretty good. Anyways, so that's it for that. So yeah, keep in mind, what, 1359, right? 1359 attack is really crazy. She can get if you can get Surmia to near 4k attack, she can reach that kind of level as well. So again, depending on how you build her. Mine is not built at the moment. I really should, but it's really just because of my emphasis in PvP that I haven't really built her up. And cleavers are not as used right now at the moment, but that doesn't mean it won't change in the future. That's the thing. And so my fourth on the list is Surmia. So again, keeping in mind on why I'm ranking them, 1359 for a warrior, Tenebria has the exact same amount of attack, right? Keeping in mind that my listing is their usefulness like all throughout the game. So Tenebria, again, useful in PvE, PvP scenarios. Surmia does the same, but obviously a different aspect. She's a single target nuker. You guys have most likely seen like videos out on YouTube, like Surmia like one-shotting Golem 11. It's quite easy to build her up for that. My Surmia did really well for me in Abyss. Abyss, I think I used her for a couple runs between Abyss 81 and 90. She was very helpful, coupled with Luna with a really high attack mods, obviously, and then with a defense break, and then Surmia coming in with her own self fire buff, attack buff, and doing her S3. Her S3 is amazing. Ignores 50% of the enemy's defense. This is incredible for taking out PvP heroes like C Armin, F Maya even, so Fighter Maya. So Fighter Maya usually gets defense buff on herself every time she gets hit. But after the hit though, she gets a defense buff for the next 2 turns. People usually build Fighter Maya with really pretty high defense because her damage also scales from defense. People use Fighter Maya for damage dealer, but Surmia does ignore 50% of that. Now obviously Watcher Skuri does a 100% ignore with no conditions, and ML says does a 100% ignore defense if the person is stunned. Very hard to get the stun on F Maya, but this is where Surmia kind of comes in. For 50% ignore defense, her S3 actually comes relatively cheap. You soul burn it and it does even more damage. I think it does a 1.65 if I'm correct on her soul burn S3. Yeah, so 1.15 on the S3 doesn't seem like a lot, but keep in mind it's a 50% ignore defense. Currently in the PvP meta, we are facing heroes with higher defense, anywhere from 800 to 1300, and even higher. Like if you're talking about like some C Armin builds or some Fighter Maya builds, 1500 defense. You'll face those kind of teams quite a bit, and being able to ignore 50% of that defense is really good. Now that 50% ignore defense does count even if they have a defense buff. So let's say if you have like 1500 right there, you're treating it as a 750 defense, right? So it's really big. It really makes them not seem like they have any defense at all. Plus, if you can land a defense break on it, bam, it's over. It's over for them. Again, the soul burn is relatively cheap, at 10 souls only, so that's very crazy. Very crazy. Now, the only thing that I would say that's even better than her S3 itself is her S2 into an S3, because the S2 used at any turn resets the cooldown for her S3, and it grants a greater attack buff. So it's a 75% attack buff instead of a regular attack buff is 50%. 75% changes the game quite a bit. It does a lot of damage. Sometimes, for the sake of the attack buff, sometimes I save the S3 even after doing the S2, and I just go for the S1. It increases it by a lot of power, so it's really nice to have. And like I said, this is how people are like one-shotting Golem. Put on a defense break, damage Golem down a bit, put up the attack buff, greater attack buff on her own, and then soul burn the S3, and it's a one shot for golem. So it's really strong. I use this to I use her a lot to take on Ruel. So Ruel, as you guys know, if you guys are in GVG and PvP a lot, arena a lot, you guys know that Ruel's revive is really annoying. So sometimes you kind of compromise if you gotta take her out first or take out this really crazy damage dealer, because when Ruel revives, it revives them in their current, or when they were dead, their current combat readiness position, and then gives them invincibility and it's full heal. So it's really annoying to have Ruel alive. So sometimes I have Surmia there as a second DPS just to take out their DPS with like maybe Baiken or Luna or something like that, and then Surmia take out Ruel ASAP, and she can do that quite easily if they're not really well built and if there's no C Armin on that team. And our S1 is also really good as well. Unhealable for one turn. You know, I took this for granted originally when Surmia was released, and you know, I did a review on her. I was saying that, yeah, you wouldn't really use it. It's kind of a nice to have. That's exactly what I said. I said it was a nice to have. Now to me, that even though that the unhealable was only granted for one turn, it's still really good when you land it. So sometimes even if I'm using her against an ice healer, let's say like Angelica or something, it comes in handy. Let's say if I land it, luckily I land it, it becomes a really funny thing, because Angelica, you know, does her S2, you could heal a lot, right? But generally, let's say if she has the lowest health, if she's targeting herself, the split heal actually doesn't move on to another hero. That's the really fun part. So it has to actually land on her target hero before the split heal on her S2 can land. So if you put unhealable on one of the heroes that she's going to heal with her S2, the split heal doesn't happen. So I've tested that over and over, and it does work. So I find that kind of funny. But of course, like I said, it's very conditional. So you know, I know that so one of my friends, Rare Ruby or Kyle, he actually enhances Surmia, I think up to a +4 on this skill itself. So that would give it a 65%, but a max of a 75% unhealable. If you're using Surmia for Golem 11 and you can't set up a one-shot kill, doing an unhealable on Golem 11 is really good as well, because what the little tree friend, so one of his ads, what he does, one of his minions, what he does is he removes the debuffs on Golem, but he heals as well. But what he does is he heals first and then removes the debuffs. So if you have unhealable on Golem, he can't heal even though that unhealable will be removed on that turn. But not like it really matters, because that's the only turn that it matters. So if you're using it for like Golem runs, but you can't one-shot him, Surmia is absolutely a monster for Golem. She was almost like made for Golem. I remember when she was released, she was almost I think she was released when Golem 11 was released, or like really soon, either before or after Golem 11 was released, because we made the comments like, oh man, she's designed just to kill Golem. So it's pretty cool. These guys are making These are making speculations. Number 3 is Tierria. Oh man, Tierria, man, old school Tierria days. Feels good, man. For people who didn't play the game early on, Tierria was one of the most broken heroes, 3-star heroes in the game. She was so broken that people didn't build like 4-star or 5-star heroes just because of her. Anyways, but she got nerfed, so now no one really uses her. So if you're a new player, it's just like, hey, what Tierria? Anyway, so that was number 4. So for number 3 for me, I would have to say Kayron, even right now. Kayron at the moment, he suffers a bit in the defense department. He used to be like one of the best defense PvP heroes. He's also really solid for PvE content. You can set him up for farming really easily. If you give him immunity set and you kind of lock him on auto, you lock his skill so he's only forced to do his S1, he'll pretty much always do a cleave. So when you have a buff up, his S1 is not a single target, it becomes an AoE. And if you build him strong enough for, like, let's say like catalyst farming and whatnot, he becomes a pretty decent farmer as well. Now obviously it depends on the map you're going for, because if you're going for a map with high high amounts of ice heroes, of course he can miss, but he's still really strong. Though the unbuffable the immunity, if you have immunity set on him, they only last for 1 turn, so keep that in mind. But on every wave he gets his immunity back, so that's what makes him a really good farmer in that sense. He's really good for Asthmatic 11. I used him for Golem 11 as well for some quick runs. Good for fire altars as well if you need to kill that really quick. Fire altars is a safe way to use Kayron as well, because he can cleave the Magner of Flame, is that his name, the boss, his ads. And usually if you can't kill the boss quick enough, his ads usually are the ones that do the most damage, because there are like 4 or 5 of them, and they also do an attack buff after their turn. So using him to cleave is really nice. When I usually farm, if I use Kayron, I usually do run DN with that. Now obviously DN is a limited hero, but then she has attack buffs up pretty much all the time, so I don't run immunity on my Kayron, even though I should, especially if you're using him for PvP, even on an offensive team. So an attacking team, I think fine. Right, Tara wants to bring this out. Yeah, so originally my Kayron was really poorly built, and I was like, he's so bad, man, he doesn't do any damage. And it just turns out I didn't build him well, but now he's built, so now I'm on the Kayron bandwagon. But Kayron on defense teams, if you have him set up with like the proper teams, let's say like on a defense team, let's say like I don't know, like Ruel maybe, or SS Acades, or Destina, something like that on a defense team with like ML or Araminta or whatever, he still can be really fearful. Like if you have a reviver with him, with some kind of a cleanser, it kind of counters the dizzy meta, and then have like ML or Araminta or ML Ball on the team. Like Kayron is still one of the most dangerous, like, second cleavers if you count ML or Araminta as the primary cleaver. He's still really dangerous on that team. So like on a defense team, he can still work. Now the only thing why I said is that if you don't have immunity, usually people have a stripper, and then like they run dizzy like right away, and it kind of like, it nerfs Kayron to nothing pretty much. That's the only reason why like he's been kind of retired from the defense team. I feel that's the case. But even myself, like sometimes in GVG, if someone's running like a Earth Cleave team, let's say like a Bologna, Vildred, and Ruzit or something like that, for one of my GVG runs, I did a solo Kayron, because Kayron was like meant to deal with those teams. So I mean, he's pretty good. His speed, I think, is the one of the highest, if not the highest, thief speeds. 129 speed at a max awaken is incredibly fast. And Ares thief there, so would that make him the same as Sid? That would make them the same as Sid, I think. Sid is a 4-star though, so he would have a lower, actually let me double check this just really quick. Sid is a 4-star, so he would have a bit lower speed, I think maybe by 1 if I'm not mistaken. 26, oh wow, by 3? What? How does that make any sense? Doesn't make sense. Yeah, so usually a 6-star would have a higher base stats, but yeah, anyways, well, I think 129 is the fastest thief speed in the game. So even if you weren't aiming for like speed, he is the fastest. Okay, he is the fastest. Okay, so yeah, even if you weren't aiming for speed in Kayron, like, so like you wouldn't, well, I don't think there's any real benefit to giving him a speed set. Mine's currently running a destruction set. I know that a lifesteal set could be like a luxury to him if you use, I would say, like parts of a lifesteal set that may be coming from the Abyss. So like the Abyss T85, if you rolled those really well, I mean, those are usually invaluable. They have like all the right substats for a damage dealer. But I definitely, if you run him with a lifesteal set, I would definitely couple it with a couple ones that you can craft with Banshee. Get a bit more crit damage. He really shines with a ton of crit damage. If you guys have seen my Kayron build videos, he's been featured in a couple of my build videos. So I'm not going to really show my Kayron on this one. 1119 attack. He has actually pretty low attack for a thief. Under Says, under Vildred, lower than Kisei. He's one of the I would say like a lowish attack, like mid range. Sid, you know, what we just kind of previewed there, he only has like 900, near 1,000 attack. So Kayron is still relatively good, and that's why I said I think you really got to focus on that critical hit damage. And you know, obviously attack does have to be up there to get that ratio of attack times critical hit damage for your final output damage, but he doesn't need to be really that strong. His S3 is really strong. I just pulled up his data mine here. It has a 1.7 times mod. That's stronger than Sid's S3 without the soul burn. Sid's S3 is a 1.6. I have it memorized by heart because I love Sid. Sid's my boy. He has a 0.3% increased damage per 1% health missing. So the lower health he has, the more damage he does. Realistically, on paper, my Kayron has about a 3,300 attack with a 273% crit damage. Of course, a 100% critical hit chance there. When my Kayron has an attack buff with a full health on doing on the S3 versus without full health doing the S3 on a similar hero, the damage output is, you know, it's not as like crazy as, like, you know, every bit counts. Okay, every bit counts, but you're looking about like 1,500 to 2,000 increase in damage from the missing HP. So you're talking about like 99% HP missing because he usually has an immortal, so he won't die. He'll be like sliver of health. Say 99% HP, but it's a 0.3% increased damage per 1% HP missing. So 0.3 times the 99%. It does about in practice it does about 1,500 to 2,000 extra crit damage. While that can be a game-changing thing, let's say if you're just on the, you know, the edge of being able to one-shot someone or not to extend your immortal, it does make a difference. But I'm not saying like it's like a crazy big buff, but it does make a difference. The S2, of course, it does grant immortality when you're dead, and you know, has all these nice little things here. You can remove it by 3 cooldowns, so by 6 turns. If you are ever going to invest in the S2, which I don't think it's necessary, if you are ever going to invest in it, I would definitely say go all out. It's either all out or don't go all in at all. Like, go all in or just don't do it at all, because a 6 turn, if you do it at 8 turn, 7 turn, I don't know how big of a difference that would make. But to grant his, I've never actually seen this play out in a PvP scenario where you get 2 immortals in one, like, you know, in one fight. Because he can extend his immortal if you use his S3 and if you kill on it, because he can extend 1 buff. So that's any buff. So let's say if Kayron is running an immunity, immunity set, right? If he's running an immunity set on and you knock him down, let's say he's on a defense team. He has immunity set, he has immunity buff. You knock him down to his immortal, he procs his S, he does his S3, he kills one of your heroes. He actually not only extends his immortal, but he also extends his immunity by 1 turn. If you don't have a stripper at that point, Kayron is very hard to deal with. Because you can't stun him, you can't put him to sleep, you can't nullify him for that turn, so he becomes very scary. So that's another reason why you want to run immunity set on him, even though, you know, I'm a hypocrite to my own cause because I don't run immunity set on. I just don't want to bother. Yeah, Tara, okay, fine. My English is bad, okay? Go all out and then go all in. Yeah, man. Oh man, these guys are making fun of me. Yeah, Aline. Hey. So Aline says, I love how Jagan makes tips on everything he doesn't do. Hey, I know what is the right thing to do. It just doesn't mean that I do it, okay? I don't want to be like telling people, yeah, he must go with this set, but I'm telling them what is the best, you know, or what are some good sets. It doesn't mean that think it's bad just because I don't use them. But yeah, I don't use it. I don't use it. The S1, I was gonna invest in this. Terror originally told me, hey, you should invest a bit in the S1. Getting a bit of his decreased hit chance down, his debuff, his blind chance, is actually pretty good for Kayron. Now, noting that generally by the time that he does get his turn on the S1, he would be able to do an AoE. Either you have buffed him or he has a buff on. So after he uses S3, he actually increases attack for himself for 2 turns. So even if you don't have an outside attack buffer, generally by that time he would already be able to do an AoE. Now, an AoE blind is an invaluable thing. But the only thing is, of course, if you're running against, in a PvP scenario, if you're running against people with immunity, or like I said, the current ice meta is really large. If you miss it, obviously you don't get it. Now, the effect chance on it is, I think it's 50%. Yeah, it's up to a 50% if you +5 it. 50% is good to have. If you get it down, it's very, very nice to have. This is why, one of the reasons why Dizzy is so OP. Not only does she have decreased attack, also has decreased hit chance and speed down. So all 3 combo wombo, makes her really, really crazy. And of course, it pretty much always lands. Only rolling effectiveness and effect resistance, while Kayron's is up to only a 50%. If you have Dust Devil, I do believe that this procs twice. So if you miss the first proc, I believe it procs on the second hit on Dust Devil, which is what usually people do run on Kayron. RNL is really not that beneficial for him, again, because only a 2-turn attack buff. But if you on a turn he procs RNL, on a second turn, usually you wouldn't get his S3 back in time on RNL. So it's not like Arbiter Vildred, which is kind of beneficial, or other Thieves is beneficial because they get their S3s quick, like Sid. And then you might lose their attack buff on one of the RNL turns. So I would say Dust Devil is one of the biggest ones. People used to run a Wind Rider on him as well, because if you generally can kill with the S3 pretty easily if you build him pretty strong. And then Wind Rider for the cleave on the next turn is very, very good. Also, putting him into hiding is very, very beneficial. But again, now we run into cleaving comps, so it's not that it's not always that good. And then for me, number 2 is gonna be Ken. All right, it's gonna be Ken. Now, I know I put a lot of love into it, so I won't go too deep into his kit because I made like a ton of videos on Ken, so much so that the people on stream have watched it over and over and over. People are like, I knew it. Yeah, they watch it over and over, so I'm not gonna go into it too much. All I can say, just to keep key highlights. Ken is right now. I mentioned this in a couple videos now, that Ambition, so the top 1 guild, have been running him on a defense team. Now, obviously, Ambition's level is, there's the reason why they're in top number 1 for so long. They have really good gear, obviously really good heroes and really good team comps. All right, and they gear their heroes in a way that their team comps will work, so that every single hero becomes very, very good, very, very strong. Now, they do run Ken's on defense, and Ken is very good if you run him with really good stats. And of course, that's to be said about every hero. But Ken has some really good self-sustainability. If you run Cigar Scythe on him, he could almost full heal himself based on his damage output. All of his skills, all 3 of his skills, have HP scaling. His HP is one of the highest in game, if not the highest, 7,323. That beats every knight. I think Fallen Cecilia is the next highest HP hero, which is at 6,900 something, and he is at 7,323. Easily, you can get him to 20,000 HP with really good damaging stats. Or I've still faced Kens with like 25,000 HP that can still do really, really good damage. But of course, it does depend on who you bring to him. 966 attack isn't even bad for the amount of HP he has. So you can build him easily with 2,200, 2,500 attack, 20,000 HP or more. And then going with high crit damage, would be really beneficial. You get the mix of the attack and the health scaling, 30% health scaling on the S3, and with a high crit damage, he does really well. His defense is usually probably the thing that would kind of hinder him in a fight, because his defense is not super strong, but it doesn't matter, you can't have everything. But when he does get his S3, when he gets his vigor buff up, has a 30% increased defense and a 30% increased attack on himself. So generally speaking, you know, his defense is covered by his by his self buff. But of course there are conditions for it. Ken can be run with speed set. Mine is run on speed set right now just to get more speed. He can be run on counter set if he's built a bit slow, but you can still opt for some speed even with a counter set. It can make Ken very scary. But you know, if people have a single target attackers, they can just choose not to attack Ken on a defense team. But on an offense team, he's invaluable. If you guys watch my video, 2-man Golem 11 video, I use Ken as my sole damage dealer, Ken and Tamarine, to take that one on. So you guys see the potential of Ken there. You know, and even though Ken is not a full-on damage dealer, he's classified as a bruiser, so someone with really high HP and does still high damage over time. So keep that in mind. So that's all I'm gonna talk about for him. Oh, actually, wait. I just realized his health imprint is only 2 slots. Feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. Because, yeah, I recently pulled a Ken off banner. I'm like, oh man, so salty. And they're like, oh man, you can give it with the health imprint. But I actually went on with the assumption that it was all 4 slots. Oof. Only 2 slots, huh? Crap. Feels bad. I'm gonna keep that dupe Ken. Just in case I get ML Ken. Isn't ML Ken's attack, right? Attack? Wait, why isn't ML Ken? Oh, he's right here. Yeah, it's attack percent. And it's all. So yeah, maybe one day if I if I can even get him. Feels bad, man. Number one. People already kind of spoiled already by saying Tamarine. Tamra is my number 1. I would say for Fire Hero. She is absolutely amazing. In PvP, PvE scenarios, I think that, you know, the only thing I think the reason why my 2-man Golem team worked is because I had Tamarine. Not so much because I had Ken, but obviously, you know, Tamarine needs a damage dealer in order for her to shine. But as a healer herself, she's just so good. I wasn't sold on her before. So basically when her banner was released, she was like good. She was still good. But then like a week after her banner was released, she got a buff immediately that sent her into like top tier healer. During that time, I was actually in Hong Kong, so I wasn't able to stream it, but I pulled for her really hard. I remember at that time I was talking to Tara on Discord while I was pulling it, and I pulled like over 1,000 bookmarks just to get her. Now eventually I did get her dupe of her, but her dupe is actually pretty good as well. I mean, her imprint is an attack percent imprint, which is good to have on a healer sometimes, because you know you kind of want to, like, you know, buff up the damage dealers that she's going for, and you know, to have her buff up other, like, you know, heroes for damage with an attack imprint is actually really good, because she's like a Destina mixed, like, DN. So DN being a limited hero, with all that, like, you know, her heal mods are pretty much the exact same as Destina, S1, S2, S3 in all conditions. Like healing wise, she's pretty much the same. And then she has the attack buff that DN has, which what makes DN so good is that she's an attack buff for about 3 turns, while Tamarine's like at 2 turns. She wasn't good at all. Bottom of the barrel, rank 1. She was that bad? I don't know, man. Why did people pull for her even though she was that bad then? I know that people pulled for her on week 1. Or were they just really bored? I'm not quite sure. If you guys watch my recent PvP or arena videos, you know that, actually no, even in GVG, Lately I've been kind of running like a Syria Tamarine combo versus like a Dizzy team. Versus a Dizzy team, it works quite well. Like I said, her S3 kind of works like Destina, dispels all debuffs, and you know, in a sense, it kind of works exactly the same. Destina does a dispel of the debuff, but for every debuff, you get an increased CR boost for the rest of your team. And while I said that for Destina, I probably said it in another video, but I'll reiterate it here. For Destina, the CR boost is kind of inconsistent. So like, let's say if Dizzy like did an S3 on your team, but for some heroes, it had only stuck like a 1 debuff. Some heroes are stuck 3, some people are stuck 2. For Destina to do a cleanse on that turn, it can really mess up your turn order. Let's say if you have a defense breaker up, usually in the speed rule, your defense breaker is just like right in front of your damage dealer, and your defense breaker only has 1 debuff, while your damage dealer has 3 debuffs. Destina's S3 would cleanse it for sure, but it will push the one with the 3 debuffs, so your damage dealer, before your defense buffer. So in that sense, it's really hard to control on Destina's S3. The only way to really use Destina's S3 like really well is if that the turn order doesn't really matter, as long as you get the CR boost. That's the only thing that I would say for Tamarine. She has that benefit. Now for Tamarine, she dispels all the debuffs, and but only after she becomes an idle form. She doesn't actually do the CR push until she can actually use her idle form's S2. So when I said that in a way it works the same, it's not exactly the same, because of course it takes 2 turns. The 2 turns is kind of nice to have though. You know, it doesn't actually, you know, give any disadvantage to Tamarine, but rather she can choose whether or not she wants to do the CR push on the S2, so idle form S2, we don't have the icons here, or she can do the dual attack on the S1, and the dispel too. It's a full AoE dispel. When she becomes idle though, another thing is that she actually becomes full health. Full health, doesn't matter where she is, she just gets full health right away, which increases her survivability by a ton. Now I didn't really mention her base stats, but she doesn't have extremely high health, base health for Soul Weaver. Not whatsoever. It's very low. She has very high attack because most of her skill awakenings in her skill tree, not skill tree, her awakening tree is all attack. So a lot of people had this kind of like questioning like why you build her all this attack. But I think that, you know, to be honest, if she had like Angelica Destina level health, like a Cancer level health, she would be like too broken, I think. You know, generally you can still run her about 13,000 14,000 HP quite easily. Again, depends on your substats, and then you can get her defense up to 1,000 pretty easily as well. Generally people do give like a pretty good mix and match, but most people usually run her fast. If she's fast, she's really hard to deal with. After her initial transformation in her S3, her Shining Star in her idle form, she only needs another 4 turns, but every time she does an S2 or S1, it removes her CD, her cooldown by 1 turn. So she can, after her first initial change, she can actually go into her idle form again for every 2 turns. Now if you run her fast, obviously you know, faster than your enemies, you can get idle form pretty much infinitely. It's pretty good. It's pretty crazy. If you do have a Syria Tamarine combo right now, dominates the attacking meta if you don't have an Oxlot's Says Cleave comp. So only at the point of this recording, I want to keep that in mind. At the point of this recording, if you don't have an Oxlot's Says Cleave comp, highly likely you're using an Assyria Tamarine comp. I'm pretty sure if I look into my arena right now into history, all of the attacks are pretty much one of those 2 comps. Because of the defense comps people are running right now, it's the Dizzy comp. Again, Asteria can reset the cooldown, so she can get her S3 right away. Generally, you would kind of want Dizzy or the debuffers to go first, so she can dispel all the debuffs, so she kind of wastes her S3. But anyways, her S2, like I said, her mods are the same as Justina. Her S1, if you don't soul burn it, it does a target, targets the lowest health hero with the allies max health. I believe it's 7% heal. If you do soul burn it, it grants an AoE heal, and that becomes, I think, her max HP. Recovers health of allies after attacking. I believe that's the case, but regardless, it's exactly the same as Justina. So 20 souls to do an AoE heal, same mods, and I think it is based on the healer's health, but the target HP targets HP health on the S1 if you don't soul burn it. The S2 does an AoE heal. While this is different than Justina's, it does the same amount of healing. So Justina does a single target with a 30% CR boost, but this one does an AoE. This is it's proportional to caster's max health. So for her, it's not as good because, like I said, she usually doesn't have that high health. Compared to Justina, a well-built Justina, you're missing about 3,000 to 5,000 difference in health between Tamra and Justina. So you can see the difference in the heal, but of course Tamra gets an AoE side of it. I'm pretty sure that that balance was planned from Smilegate so that she doesn't outperform Justina in every single aspect. Otherwise, but to keep in mind that she is a fire hero though, so if you are using her idol form S1 for the AoE spell, keep in mind that it can miss the ice opponents in the other team. I used her for Abyss. You guys have seen me use her for Abyss ever since she was released. I used her to clear like one of the Abyss, like Abyss 70 or 80s or something like that, when she was level 50. I couldn't get past that stage. I actually forgot what it was at the moment, but there was one video I did. Couldn't get past that stage with anything else, but once Tamra came on the scene, I beat it at level 50, and she had like 7,000 HP or something. No, it was like actually, yeah, it was like 7,000 HP. Yeah, so like about 7,000. She was like almost always one-shottable, but I still beat it. And after that Abyss run, I was like, okay, she's like everything people make her out to be, and more than that. And I'm so glad that I did eventually get her, even though now I have a dupe of her. But she turns out to be one of my most used healers. I also use her in GVG even without Asteria to do a bait tactic. So if, let's say, if people are running like Violet, a cart, I don't know, another single target damage dealer, I don't know, I can't think of one top of my head, but I would run like Fighter Maya, and I would run her as the healer because she's a fire, so Violet will never touch her, A-Cut would never touch her, and then, you know, run someone else. But then, you know, given enough turns, once she goes into idle form, like I said, a serious benefit for her is just to get that first turn idle form, but she'll be able to eventually get it, and once she goes and gets it, there's pretty much nothing stopping your team as long as you can sustain it, and her heals are still pretty good. So anyways, that's my number one there for my fire. So this is my top 5 fire heroes. It's been again a long one. So until next time, I think I'll be covering dark or light. Now I don't know which one I want to cover first, but you guys will have to see to find out. So let me know in the comments below what you think about my list here. What do you think, what should be your top 5? Am I missing anything? I really wanted to actually, you know, even just before I end this, I did want to give a mention to Cecilia, to Araminta, and even Charlotte. Charlotte is very, not really, you know, I think you know, people don't, like, they neglect her. People neglect her too much, I think. But I think Charlotte really has a really awesome kit. I was talking to this guy on YouTube, and he was like, Charlotte buffs when? And I'm like, yes, man. Like, I'm building up my Charlotte, and yeah, we had to talk about that. And yeah, we were saying that she's kind of like neglected, even though her kit is extremely good. I think it's just yeah, people don't use her. It feels bad, man. Anyways, I'm gonna end this one here. So if you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.